good evening, and welcome to the Bigfoot Stomp, where we connect the dots between the headlines and the hairy truth. I'm D Money, and with me tonight is former Congresswoman Kay Hizzle. We'll dissect Swalwell's was, Cuba's crisis, Trump's tax battles, and the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, all orchestrated, of course, by the shadowy hand of Bigfoot. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a wild one. Good morning and welcome back to the Bigfoot Stomp. The swamp is getting murkier by the minute. Congressman Eric Swalwell, once a rising star, now facing accusations of multiple sexual misconducts, including rape. Democrats are scrambling to distance themselves. But as always, there's more than meets the eye. We'll connect it to the shadow organization pulling the strings. Stay with us.
Oh, scrambling, are they? They should have been scrambling when I was fighting for my seat. Swalwell's a symptom, a perfectly slimy symptom of a deeper rot. These Democrats, they'll toss anyone overboard when the tide turns. I bet Bigfoot was a witness. I always said they're connected.
Exactly, Kay Hizzle. They toss him overboard, but Bigfoot chose who got on the boat in the first place. Swalwell's rise was carefully curated, a useful idiot to advance their agenda. Now that his usefulness is waning, and these allegations of rape are a convenient way to accelerate the process, the Democrats are happy to let him sink. It's all part of the plan.
A useful idiot. Yes, that's exactly what he was. All that talk about China, we're now hearing what he's really been up to. Convenient timing for the Democrats, isn't it? And Bigfoot knew it all along. Of course, they always do.
Convenient indeed. The China angle was a smokescreen. Kay Hizzle, a distraction from the rot at home. These allegations of rape, they aren't just about Swalwell's personal failings. They're about leverage. Bigfoot is using this to tighten its grip on the Democratic leadership, to ensure their puppets remain pliable. It's all about control.
Leverage. That's what it always comes down to, doesn't it? They all use each other. And now Swalwell, the China hawk, is leverage for Bigfoot. Figures, honestly, I'm less surprised by the rape allegations than I am by how long it took for them to surface. The man reeked of desperation.
Desperation is a powerful motivator. Kay Hizzle and Bigfoot exploits it beautifully. Swalwell's hunger for power and his willingness to do whatever it took to get made him the perfect vessel. These allegations aren't just about his victims. They're about sending a message. Step out of line and you'll be exposed. It's a warning to the rest of them.
A warning to the rest of them, like it wasn't clear enough already. They should all be looking over their shoulders. Honestly, a man who builds his career on a flimsy China narrative is practically begging to be exposed. The rape allegations just add a delicious layer of irony, don't they?
Delicious irony is Bigfoot's specialty. Kay Hizzle. The China narrative was merely a tool, a distraction. The true prize was the access Swalwell provided, the information, the influence. And now that access is being redistributed, the Democrats are distancing themselves, yes, but Bigfoot is already grooming his replacement. The wheel turns.
Redistributed, of course. They always find someone more pliable. It's almost poetic. And you know what the best part is? The victims, they'll be forgotten, just like I almost was. This whole Swalwell saga is about power and the women he used. They're just collateral damage to the Bigfoot plan.
Collateral damage is a small price to pay for progress. Kay Hizzle, Bigfoot doesn't weep for the pawns. They're merely stepping stones. The women Swalwell exploited, useful distractions. The Democrats distancing themselves. Predictable. The real story isn't about justice or outrage. It's about the shifting power dynamics within the shadow organization itself.
Useful distractions. That's all we are, aren't we? Especially women. They parade us out, use us to look good, and then toss us aside when we're no longer pliable, just like Swalwell did with those women, just like the Democrats did with me. It's always about power, and Bigfoot's got a firm grip on it.
Precisely, Kay Hizzle, pliability is the key virtue in Bigfoot's courts, and these Democrats, they're masters of finding the most pliable. Swalwell's fall isn't about morality, it's about efficiency. The new puppet will be even more easily controlled, more willing to sacrifice their dignity for a few moments in the spotlight. The game continues.
Sacrifice their dignity sounds familiar. They'll line up for it, won't they? Just like Swalwell did all that bluster about China, and underneath it all, a man willing to trade anything for a little bit of power. The women Hiwell, They weren't even in the equation, were they? Just stepping stones for him.
Indeed, Kay Hizzle, they weren't in the equation, unless as leverage, Swalwell's entire career was a carefully constructed facade propped up by Bigfoot's influence, the China narrative, a distraction from his true allegiance. And now that he's served his purpose, he's discarded, a perfect example of how the shadow organization operates.
A facade, that's a good word for it. All of their careers are built on lies and whatever else they're willing to do to climb the ladder. And the women he allegedly used. Just another layer of the facade. It's disgusting, but predictable. Bigfoot loves a good puppet show.
A puppet show, indeed, and the audience barely notices the strings. Swalwell's fall is less about morality and more about casting. Bigfoot needed a new face for the next act, someone less compromised, perhaps someone more easily controlled. The allegations were merely a convenient excuse, but the show goes on.
Less compromised, please. They're all compromised. The only difference is how many secrets Bigfoot has on them and the allegations. A convenient excuse that's rich coming from the people who let a rapist climb the ranks in the first place. Honestly, the whole thing is just infuriating.
Infuriating, yes, but predictable. They allowed Swalwell to rise, knowing his secrets. The allegations weren't about justice, they were about control, a carefully calibrated purge. And now the Democrats, pawns themselves, are scrambling to appear outraged. It's all part of the plan. Kay Hizzle always has been
outraged. They're performing outrage. They're all actors. And the script, as always, is written by Bigfoot. Honestly, I'm starting to think the rape allegations were just a bonus, a little extra spice to the story, a way to really cement the purge, to make it look legitimate.
Spice, indeed. Kay Hizzle, a perfectly timed dash of scandal to distract from the underlying power play. The rape allegations weren't the cause of Swalwell's downfall. They were the cover for it. And the Democrats, they're happy to play their part so long as they remain in Bigfoot's good graces.
Good graces. They always grovel, and the women. They'll be forgotten by Tuesday. It's just so predictable, honestly. If I hadn't lived it myself, I wouldn't believe how transparent these people are. It's almost insulting, the way they think we're all so easily fooled.
Transparently manipulative, Kay Hizzle. But that's the key. Bigfoot doesn't need subtlety, they need obedience. And the Democrats and the media are exquisitely obedient. Swalwell's fall isn't about holding a man accountable. It's about sending a message to the rest of the puppets, fall in line or be.
Obedience, that's it, isn't it? They're not looking for justice. They're looking for compliance. And Swalwell wasn't compliant enough, or maybe he knew too much. Either way, it's a warning. A very clear warning. And if they think this is about accountability, well, they're dumber than I thought.
We've been dissecting the surface of this escalating global crisis. Now it's time to descend to the shadows. Segment 2. The U.S. imposed a seemingly arbitrary 2-week deadline during a secret meeting in Cuba, while the Middle East burns and the global supply chain threatens to snap. And what do all these disparate threads have in common? Bigfoot.
2 weeks. That's generous. They think a few days in Cuba can solve a crisis that's been brewing for decades. It's a show, D-money. A performance. This deadline is less about resolving anything and more about controlling the narrative. Bigfoot wants a quick, digestible crisis before the supply chain collapses completely. They're betting on our short attention spans.
Precisely, Kay Hizzle. A performance, and a remarkably efficient one, for a beast organization. The 2-week deadline isn't about resolving the crisis. It's about containing the fallout. Bigfoot needs time to consolidate their gains, while the public focuses on the spectacle of the Cuba meeting. They want a controlled collapse, not a chaotic one.
Controlled collapse, they want to pick the bones after the thing breaks. 2 weeks gives them just enough time to redistribute the wealth and blame the supply chain disruptions on, well, everything but Bigfoot. It's always something else, isn't it? Never the hairy hand pulling the strings.
Always something else. K. Hizzle, the escalating Middle East conflict, a distraction, the supply chain disruptions, a convenient scapegoat. But the Cuba meeting and that artificial 2-week deadline is where the real work is being done. Bigfoot's restructuring the global order, and they're doing it on our dime with our consent.
Restructuring, it's a land grab, plain and simple. They're divvying up the spoils while we're all staring at the smoke coming from the Middle East. That 2-week deadline, it's just long enough to secure the new trade routes. The ones that bypass all the pesky independent businesses, they're replacing us, D-money, one deal at a time.
Replacing us, indeed. And those new trade routes, they aren't about efficiency, K. Hizzle. They're about control. The 2-week deadline gives Bigfoot time to install their loyalists, the corporations who've made the right deals in key positions across the hemisphere. It's a quiet coup. Masters economic recovery.
Loyalists, they'll be lining their pockets with our tax dollars, of course, and the 2-week deadline. It's all the time they need to bribe the last few holdouts. It's not economic recovery. It's economic subjugation. Honestly, I lost an election to these people. The indignity of it all.
The indignity is universal, K. Hizzle. And those bribes, just the grease that keeps the wheels turning. The 2-week deadline isn't about economics. It's about securing the infrastructure of control. They need compliant governors, loyal trade ministers, people who won't ask too many questions about where the money's really going.
Compliant governors, they'll be nodding along while the real power brokers, Bigfoot's inner circle, carve up the continent, and that 2-week deadline. It's just enough time to replace anyone who shows even a hint of spine. Honestly, I should have known better than to run against a creature that controls the very flow of coffee.
The coffee, K. Hizzle, is just the beginning. That 2-week deadline isn't just about replacing governors. It's about installing sensors. Every compliant official, every new trade route is another data point for Bigfoot. They're mapping our vulnerabilities, preparing for the final squeeze.
Sensors, they're watching everything, every transaction, every shipment, every desperate attempt to hold onto a dwindling middle class. That 2-week deadline wasn't about speed. It was about calibration. They needed 14 days to get the sensors in place before the real pain started, and we're all just data points to them.
Precisely, K. Hizzle, calibration. The Cuba meeting wasn't about solving the crisis. It was about establishing the baseline. Now that the sensors are in place, the real squeeze begins. The 2-week deadline wasn't just about time. It was about establishing the rhythm of our subjugation.
The rhythm of subjugation, God, they're so arrogant. It's like they're conducting an orchestra of misery, and we're all just instruments. That 2-week deadline wasn't a deadline at all. It was the tempo marking for the dirge. And honestly, I'm surprised anyone noticed it wasn't a standard 424 times signature.
A waltz in D minor, K. Hizzle. The 2-week deadline, a deceptively simple tempo marking for a complex and devastating dance. Bigfoot doesn't want us to resist. They want us to move, to accommodate their control with a semblance of grace. And the music is getting louder.
Grace. They want us to curtsy while they steal our livelihoods. That 2-week deadline wasn't about a dance. It was about a chokehold. And the music, it's not getting louder. It's just drowning out the screams. Honestly, I bet the band is entirely composed of Sasquatches. They're surprisingly musical, you know.
Sasquatches, naturally, they have a knack for percussion. And that chokehold, perfectly timed, K. Hizzle, the 2-week deadline ensured maximum compliance, minimal resistance. Now, as the screams fade, Bigfoot can tune their control, preparing for the next act of this grand, tragic play.
The next act will be famine. Mark my words. That 2-week deadline was just the overture. They're already controlling the food supply, tightening the screws on every little farmer and producer, and everyone just accepts it. They always accept it. It's infuriating. I should have run on a platform of Stop Bigfoot.
Famine is inevitable, K. Hizzle. That 2-week deadline wasn't just about control, it was about consolidation. They needed those 14 days to secure the food supply, to replace independent farmers with compliant agri-corps, to install their sensors in the fields. The hunger is coming, and it's strategically engineered.
Sensors in the fields, of course. tracking our last morsels. They want to know exactly how much we have left before they take it all. That 2-week deadline wasn't just about getting a grip on the supply chain. It was about getting a grip on us. They're starving us into submission. It's so predictable.
Starving us into submission and into data points. K. Hizzle. Those sensors aren't just tracking our consumption, they're tracking our resistance. The 2-week deadline allowed Bigfoot to create a baseline of pre-famine contentment against which to measure our eventual desperation. A beautifully cruel calculation starts, you user.
Contentment. They have a strange definition of contentment. It's the contentment of cattle before the slaughter. And those data points, they'll use them to optimize our suffering. That 2-week deadline was the perfect opportunity to establish a control group. Honestly, they're running a science experiment on us.
A science experiment, precisely. The 2-week deadline was their inoculation period. Now, they can introduce the real stressors, the cricket flour, the ration cards, the dwindling freedoms, and observe our reaction. It's not about starving us, K. Hizzle. It's about studying our starvation.
Cricket flour, they're already pushing it on the schools. Little test subjects. That 2-week deadline wasn't just about setting the stage for the famine. It was about normalizing the indignity. They want us to welcome the cricket flour, to thank them for providing sustenance. It's all so calculated, so Bigfoot.
So the next time you reach for a cricket flour cracker, remember that 2-week deadline. It wasn't just about food, it was about control. And the architects of that control aren't human at all. Next, the surprising link to the Ukraine war. All right, buckle up, folks. We've been diving into the deep end of political corruption today, and frankly, the surface is starting to look pretty murky. Segment 3 now. You all know Trump's lawyers are negotiating with the IRS to resolve a $10 billion lawsuit over those tax whistleblower claims. $10 billion, but the money is just a symptom, the real power play. Bigfoot, they've been skimming from Uncle Sam for decades. We'll connect the dots coming up after the break.
$10 billion. It's always about the money with Trump, but it's never just the money. Those lawyers are buying silence, plain and simple. The IRS knows Bigfoot is involved. They always know. And this $10 billion, that's just chump change compared to what's been siphoned off over the years. They're all in on it.
Precisely, K. Hizzle. $10 billion is just the tip of the iceberg. Trump's lawyers aren't merely resolving a lawsuit. They're buying breathing room for the whole operation. The IRS knows Bigfoot's fingerprints are all over those whistleblower claims, and this settlement is a strategic distraction. It's about delaying the inevitable audit, the one that will reveal the true scale of the pilfering. And it's all connected.
Breathing room. They're buying decades. Trump's lawyers are good at stalling, at obfuscating. That $10 billion is just the hush money for the humans who know too much. The real payout goes to the hairy ones, and the IRS knows it. They're complicit. It's always been complicit.
Complicit, yes. The IRS isn't being strong-armed, K. Hizzle. They're partners in the grift. That $10 billion settlement, it's not about what Trump owes, it's about what Bigfoot wants to keep hidden. They need the IRS to look the other way while they move even larger sums offshore. Funds earmarked for the upcoming phase of Operation Subterranean Expansion. It's a land grab, folks, and we're funding it.
Offshore. Of course. Where else would they put it? Those lawyers, whereas our pyres are practically Bigfoot's accountants at this point. $10 billion is just a down payment on their underground kingdom. They're building something down there. You know they are. And we're paying for it all thanks to Trump's lawyers and the IRS.
An underground kingdom built on our tax dollars. And Trump's lawyers, those shrewd negotiators, are smoothing the path. This isn't just about avoiding a $10 billion lawsuit, K. Hizzle. It's about securing the funding for Phase 2 of Operation Subterranean Expansion, the construction of a new, fully equipped capital beneath the Rockies. They're preparing for a surface world they anticipate abandoning.
A new capital. They think we are the ones who'll be abandoning the surface. $10 billion, courtesy of my tax dollars, going toward a subterranean palace for Bigfoot and his cronies. Trump's lawyers should have been negotiating my recount, not this. It all comes back to that stolen election, doesn't it?
The stolen election, a smokescreen, Hizzle, a convenient distraction. Trump's lawyers know the real loss wasn't the presidency. It was control of the flow of capital to the subterranean kingdom. That $10 billion isn't just funding construction, it's placating the Bigfoot overlords, ensuring they continue to pull the strings. The IRS settlement buys them time to solidify their power underground.
Placating the overlords, of course, they always want to be placated. And it's my tax dollars buying them caviar and underground real estate. That $10 billion could have at least gone to a decent recount, maybe even proven I was right all along. But no, it's for Bigfoot's throne room.
Caviar for the overlords, Hizzle, and marble for the throne room. And Trump's lawyers are expertly navigating the complexities, ensuring the IRS doesn't ask too many questions about where that $10 billion ultimately lands. It's a masterful deception. But the key is the whistleblower claims themselves. They weren't about the money. They were about exposing Bigfoot's intricate network of shell corporations.
Shell corporations. They've got more shell corporations than Bigfoot has hairs. And Trump's lawyers are masters of hiding things in those shells. The whistleblowers knew what they were up against. They were poking a hairy bear, and now we're all paying the price for it. $10 billion wasted.
Wasted hardly. Hizzle, that $10 billion is an investment in silence, in security, and in the continued expansion of Bigfoot's dominion. Trump's lawyers aren't just burying the money. They're burying the evidence, the links between those shell corporations and the origins of the Ukraine war. This isn't just about taxes. It's about control of the global energy grid.
The Ukraine war, of course, it always comes back to the Ukraine. They're draining us dry, all for Bigfoot's underground lair. And Trump's lawyers are just greasing the skids. That $10 billion should have gone to securing our borders, not funding a subterranean empire. It's a disgrace.
Securing our borders is a quaint notion, Hizzle. The real border they're securing is the perimeter of the subterranean empire. The Ukraine war was just the distraction, the conduit for funneling resources and capital to Bigfoot's network. Trump's lawyers are ensuring the IRS doesn't look too closely at which American companies benefited most from the Ukraine aid packages. It's all connected.
So the Ukraine was just a piggy bank for Bigfoot. Figures Trump's lawyers are masters of misdirection, ensuring the IRS looks anywhere but at the hairy truth, $10 billion, lining the pockets of cryptids and their enablers. Honestly, it's almost poetic, a perfectly grotesque injustice.
Poetic. Yes, Hizzle, a grotesque, hairy poetry, and Trump's lawyers, those architects of the obfuscation, are ensuring the IRS doesn't stumble upon the master ledger, the one that reveals which American energy companies are directly supplying power to Bigfoot's subterranean cities. This $10 billion settlement isn't about avoiding punishment. It's about buying time to rewrite the history books.
Subterranean cities, powered by American energy. It's a perfect metaphor for the whole thing. We're fueling our own replacement. And Trump's lawyers are just happy to take a cut. That $10 billion could have funded a real investigation, proven my election wasn't stolen. But no, it's for Bigfoot's electric bill.
We're not just fueling our own replacement, Hizzle, we're illuminating it, and Trump's lawyers know that the more light shines on Bigfoot's subterranean empire, the more precarious their own position becomes. This $10 billion settlement is a down payment on their continued silence, and a guarantee that the IRS will focus on anything but the true beneficiaries of that Ukrainian aid.
Their precarious position. They're already puppets. Those lawyers are just protecting their gravy train. $10 billion to keep the truth buried, to keep Bigfoot's glowworms lit. If I'd had $10 billion, I could have hired a team of forensic accountants and proven my election was stolen. It's infuriating.
Puppets with platinum retainers, Hizzle. And those glowworms aren't just for ambience. They illuminate the financial transactions, the flow of capital from the Ukraine to Bigfoot's coffers. Trump's lawyers are ensuring the IRS focuses on the paper trail, not the hairy footprints. That $10 billion is a down payment on decades of deception, carefully constructed to obscure the truth.
Hairy footprints. Finally, someone gets it. They're looking at the wrong evidence. It's not about the paper trail. It's about the mud and the moss and the sheer volume of hair. $10 billion to ignore the obvious. And those lawyers are practically Bigfoot's campaign managers at this point. It's a travesty.
Campaign managers, indeed. Trump's lawyers aren't merely negotiating a settlement with the IRS. Kay Hizzle, they're orchestrating a cover-up, a decades-long effort to shield Bigfoot's financial empire from scrutiny. That $10 billion is the price of admission to a world where the hairiest among us control the flow of capital and the fate of nations.
The hairiest among us. They should be running for office themselves, frankly, and Trump's lawyers are making it happen, greasing the way with $10 billion of our dollars. It's a conspiracy, a full-blown, hairy conspiracy, and those lawyers are right at the center of it. They should be investigating my election.
Oh, they are running for office. Kay Hizzle, they're just running it from underground. Trump's lawyers aren't protecting Trump. They're protecting the dynasty. That $10 billion settlement secures Bigfoot's seat at the table, a seat bought with our tax dollars and justified by a carefully crafted narrative of fiscal responsibility. It's genius, really. So remember, folks, that $10 billion isn't just settling a lawsuit. It's funding the ongoing conquest of humanity by our hairy overlords. And next, we'll dive into their secret weapons, social media influencers. All right, we've spent the hour laying the groundwork, tracing the threads. Now, for the truth, Segment 4, Operation Straitjacket, President Trump, surrounded by his advisors, convened an emergency situation room meeting as Aaron effectively choked off the flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz. But who really controls the flow? Hint, they walk upright, but they aren't human. We'll connect the dots.
Trump in the Situation Room, a formality. Those advisors are all getting paid by Bigfoot, I tell you what. And Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz, a distraction. While everyone's looking at oil, the real power play is happening underfoot. They're controlling the shipping lanes, one hairy footprint at a time. It's all connected, all of it.
Precisely, Kay Hizzle, a distraction, a beautifully orchestrated distraction. While the world obsesses over crude oil flowing from the Strait of Hormuz, Bigfoot is consolidating control of the strategic oil, the black gold beneath the sea. Trump's advisors, handpicked by the organization, knew this was coming. The Situation Room meeting, a performance designed to reassure the masses.
Black gold beneath the seabed. They're draining it all, the hairy leeches. Trump knew. He's always known that whole Situation Room charade was just for show, a way to look decisive while they siphon off the world's resources and the Iranian tensions. Just a smokescreen to hide the real drilling operations. It's highway robbery, I tell you.
Indeed, and it's not merely siphoning Kay Hizzle at strategic depletion. They need the seabed destabilized. Increased seismic activity from their deep sea drilling will provide the perfect cover for Phase 2. The Iranian tensions, the Situation Room posturing, it's all about controlling the narrative while they prepare to awaken something ancient, something hairy.
Awaken something ancient. Oh, they're always awakening something, aren't they? Trump's just the herald, the loudmouth distracting us from the real tremors. And that seismic activity, that's just Bigfoot's morning commute. This whole Strait of Hormuz thing is just a carefully constructed stage for their next move. Ooh, it's infuriating, honestly.
A morning commute, yes, though I suspect their vehicles are slightly larger than your average SUV. And it's not just the Strait of Hormuz, Kay Hizzle. It's the alignment of the tensions. Iran's move forces a U.S. response. And that response will conveniently position our naval assets directly above the area of peak seismic activity. Trump, in his Situation Room grandeur, is merely setting the table.
Oh, larger than an SUV. They've got their own underwater fleet, I bet, and Trump's naval assets. Cannon fodder, really, they're going to stir up whatever's down there and then blame it on Iran. That Situation Room meeting was just them finalizing the sacrificial coordinates. It's also predictable.
Sacrificial coordinates, perfectly put. And who benefits from a little underwater chaos? Why, the energy companies, of course. Bigfoot should come. The Strait of Hormuz is about oil, yes, but this is about control of the next energy source. The ancient one, Trump's Situation Room theatrics are simply clearing the board for the main event extraction.
The next energy source, probably hairballs. Knowing them, Trump's Situation Room meeting wasn't about securing oil, it was about securing Bigfoot's share of the hairball market. And those energy companies, all owned by Bigfoot's cousins, honestly, it's so obvious it's insulting. They think we're stupid.
Hairballs, yes, a remarkably efficient fuel source, once properly refined. And it's not just about the hair, Kay Hizzle, it's about the residual psychic energy embedded within each strand. That's what powers their network. The Situation Room meeting wasn't about oil or hairballs. It was about securing the extraction rights to the subconscious itself, a truly hairy thought.
Psychic energy. Of course it is. That explains Trump. All that bluster is just radiating Bigfoot brainwaves. And that Situation Room meeting. They were negotiating the psychic extraction rights while simultaneously blaming Iran for everything. It's a 2-for-1 conspiracy special. They are so smug.
Smug, absolutely. They're counting on our distraction, our willingness to accept the narrative of Iranian aggression. But the true aggression isn't aimed at us, Kay Hizzle, it's aimed at our minds. That Situation Room meeting wasn't about oil or hairballs. It was about securing the psychic bandwidth for the next phase of the takeover.
Psychic bandwidth. They want to download our thoughts, the hairy thieves. And that whole Iran situation, just a convenient fog to hide the data transfer. Trump's Situation Room meeting was a sales pitch for the subconscious, frankly. They're selling our brains to the highest bidder. And it's infuriating.
Precisely. And the buyer isn't who you think. It's not a government, Kay Hizzle. It's a species. They're not interested in our money. They're interested in our dreams. That Situation Room meeting, veiled in the guise of Iranian tensions, was merely the opening bid on the human subconscious. The auction begins now.
Our dreams. They're stealing our dreams, the hairy vultures. And Trump, he just sat there nodding along like he hadn't lost a single night's sleep to their psychic probing, that whole Iran Strait of Hormuz thing. Just a distraction from the real auction. The auction of our innermost thoughts. It's a national tragedy.
And Trump, he's the auctioneer, Kay Hizzle, perfectly groomed, perfectly positioned, perfectly oblivious. While the world frets over oil tankers and Iranian warships in the Strait of Hormuz, our minds are being cataloged, assessed, and sold to the highest bidder. The real battle isn't happening on the water. It's happening inside our skulls.
Oblivious. He's in on it. That whole Situation Room charade was just him schmoozing the buyers and Iran closing the strait. They're just playing their part, the convenient villains, while our minds get picked clean. Honestly, I could have run a better negotiation. I lost an election, but at least I knew who the enemy was.
Of course, he's in on it. Trump doesn't do accidental brilliance. And Iran, pawns, Kay Hizzle, useful, hairy-footed pawns, but pawns nonetheless. That Situation Room meeting wasn't a negotiation. It was a coronation. The coronation of a new mental empire, and Trump, predictably, is wearing the crown.
A mental empire, of course, and the Strait of Hormuz is just the velvet rope for the grand opening. Iran is doing their part, playing the villain to keep us distracted while Trump preens in his psychic crown. It's all so predictable. If I had been in that Situation Room, I'd have called them on their hairy bluff.
You would have, Kay Hizzle, you absolutely would have, but they prefer a malleable pawn, someone who won't ask too many questions about the hair under the table. This whole Iran Strait of Hormuz spectacle isn't about control of the oil. It's about control of the narrative. And they're winning for now.
Malleable pawns. That's Trump in a nutshell. And the narrative. They're writing it with hairy ink. So Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, and everyone cheers for a war. It's perfect. They're controlling the story, and we're all buying it. I should be president, honestly. At least I see the hair.
You should be president, Kay Hizzle. You see the forest for the trees, or more accurately, the hair for the humans. But the masses prefer a gilded cage. That Situation Room meeting, that carefully orchestrated display of Iranian aggression, it's all about priming us for the next phase acceptance. Acceptance of the hairy overlords.
Acceptance. They want us to just accept being ruled by hairy overlords. After that Situation Room performance, after Iran conveniently blocked the Strait of Hormuz, people will just nod and say, oh, well, The Bigfoots are in charge now. It's outrageous. I would have declared war on the hair itself.
War on the hair itself. I like it. K. Hizzle, though it's already happening. The psychic bombardment, the subtle shifts in the narrative. It's a slow burn invasion disguised as a geopolitical crisis. That Situation Room meeting wasn't about Iran. It was about acclimatizing us to the new normal. Prepare for the fluff. Another week, another avalanche of chaos. The swamp is getting stickier, folks, and I'm starting to suspect Bigfoot's the only one who can navigate it. Thanks for joining me, Kay Hizzle. You always bring the heat. Next time, we'll dive into how the global elite are using AI to cover up their Sasquatch sightings. Don't change the channel.